You know, girl, let's go get that money. Let's get that free meal, honey. Let's go get it. It's like, honey, everything has a cost for it.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Great
saying?
impression.
That's real.
It's a great impression.
That's Atlanta.
But it's real. That's it.
Salute. This is Eshawn Burgundy. Right now, you're in the field with the Trackstarz. Yeah.
Yeah, back in the field with the Trackstarz, Ryan Righteous, SEANTANA, DJ Jeremiah, fastest growing Christian hip hop talk show on the face of the planet. We're making this up as we go.
All right, this episode is sponsored by True Strength Apparel. Make sure you get to www.truestrengthapparel.com for all the latest gear. Follow us on Instagram at Trackstarz, Twitter at Trackstarz, like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, download the podcast each and every Monday, and subscribe to the Trackstarz universe.
Okay, so we got something interesting today. We got into a huge argument a couple shows ago, and often Miracle is the only young lady representing in the room.
Yes.
And she got it. Was this the day I wasn't there? It was one of these days I wasn't
It's
here.
happened several times.
Okay.
This happened several times. But we brought you 10 to the 1, so
Okay.
Heather's going to represent 50,000 women today, so
Gotcha.
we're in trouble.
So, what was your question?
So I was talking about how I was waiting, to kiss till marriage. And all of the guys came at me talking about how
Wait.
that's
It
really
wasn't
ridiculous.
all of us. It wasn't
Okay,
all of us. Wasn't all
a
of us.
large majority.
It wasn't all of us.
Two
It
people.
was me and some other
Clarify.
people, but it wasn't all of us.
Large
See how
majority.
she twisted it. They're similar. I told you they're more similar than you think.
Thank you, I
They are.
appreciate it. So anyway, they were just basically telling me I was being unrealistic. But that has not been the only topic. There have been various other things that I have presented that have been
Pause.
shut down.
Pause.
But that's just one of them.
We didn't say you were unrealistic. We said that it would be unfair for you to make that a requirement of the dude.
Which sounds like unrealistic to me.
Unrealistic. Yeah.
Just in different
Pretty much.
words.
You said it differently.
It's just a happier way.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I would just love to hear you guys. I know some of your story, but just kind of share your courting experience and journey with others, and give encouragement to those who are, trying to do that.
Amen. No, I love
thing.
that. I actually asked God for that in 2004, and I remember sitting and just telling a big group of friends that were all my age that I want to wait to kiss until I get married, and everyone's like, "Psh, girl, you crazy. You're in New York City. No, you're never going to meet a man like that. Like, good luck. Let me know how that works for you. You're going to be single your whole life." And I was like, no, I believe that if a man kisses me, that's supposed to be my husband. So I would mention it to guys that I would start a relationship with just to see what they would say. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll respect that. And then when I met my husband, we went on our first date, and I didn't mention to him that I'd prayed for a man in 2004 that wouldn't kiss me to our wedding day. It was 2009 at the time. On our first date. I remember it was in January, and we went out to eat at this vegan restaurant, and afterward he went to the bathroom, he came back out. He's like, I asked the Lord how I was going to end the date, and long story short, like, I'm not going to kiss you until our wedding day. And I was like, what? Like,
Wow.
This is a total answer prayer, because I prayed for that, and I never told him that.
Right.
And so the fact that he brought it up and he was actually leading it for me meant so much.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, I didn't respect men at all, because most men said they were going to do things and they didn't follow through with it, which just took my respect away for most men. So I was like, all right, let's see if you're actually going to do it. And then I realized, oh, he's not playing. Like, there was so many boundaries
Set in
in our
place.
relationship.
Wow.
But it was beautiful, because about 6 months in, it was almost like to the point where, like, I wish you would try to kiss me. Because it's like you have so much invested in the relationship, and you're growing spiritually like never before, because you don't have the aspect of the physical. You can't run and kiss to makeup. You can't have makeup sex. You can't do those different, like, you have to, the relationship confronts you and who you are.
Yeah.
So I was being pushed closer to Jesus like never before, and it was the first time ever I was in a relationship like that. So
That's awesome.
Now, I mean, none of my relationships in the past were like that.
Okay.
None of them.
yeah, same here.
Yeah, my relationships in the
train
past were the exact opposite of that. And we never had that conversation about kissing. So for me to hear that from God, I initially thought, when I talked to her about this, I'm gonna lose her. Like, this is unrealistic. I don't think this is gonna work. I don't even know why he would want me to do this. And then when she was kind of like, okay, well, cool, we're gonna see how it goes. At that point, I felt like it was a challenge. Like, now I have to keep up with my end of the bargain. I have to be a leader. And I mean, it was while going through it, it seemed like one of the dumbest decisions or one of the dumbest things that I was doing. But then afterwards, looking back, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. Wow. It was on our honeymoon. My wife looked at me and she said, "You know what? The fact that you kept your word, it taught me how to respect you."
Wow.
And that's something that I greatly desired in marriage. And I talked to her about that, about respect. And she said, it taught me to respect you and it taught me to love you. So it was something about that. It also forced me, a man who refused to open up and communicate, it forced me to now have to converse because I can't kiss her. Right. I can't run to what I would always run to in past relationships and just saying, "Oh, I don't feel like talking. Let's just do something else." Yeah. So now it's like, all right, it forces me to now open up, to let you know what's going on in my heart, because I can't lead physically. Right. I have to now lead emotionally and spiritually.
That's good. All right, defend yourself.
Defend yourself.
Okay.
It's horrible.
So
it's gonna go that way.
For me, right? I thought being a virgin on my wedding night was really what God required of me, right? Purity was not really introduced until me and Sean had a conversation about we got to also encourage people to be pure. So for me, I was just like, that's stretching it, Right. I was like, God, I can only be so great, for so long. So to me, it was really hard for me I worked at Radio 1. 107.9, and you saw people, and you're not really comparing yourself or judging others, but you're saying, God, I gotta at least be the standard, right? I feel like I'm at least the standard. And so when I ran across that situation, I didn't have a problem with that, because I never thought in my wildest days that, okay, if I'm saving myself to marriage, I also need to save who I kiss until marriage, so that part was hard for me. And so right now, here's the biggest problem. The three of us, we were champions for just like purity before marriage and men loving God and really being authentic about our walks, being devout to in everything that we did. We honestly can't say that we know other men our age or younger that are doing that, right? And so I was just telling her that I was like, I don't want to see you run a good man off because you make a list of requirements and give it to him on this date. Mm-hmm. So that's what scared me, is that I said, wow, it's really, I feel for guys that I might know, right? Good Christian men that don't think of that right off the bat, because I never thought of that. My wife never thought of that. So good men that don't think of that off the bat, but now you're telling them at a date that you heard something that disqualified them. Mm-hmm. And it's so hard for good Christian men to be taken seriously, to be, to find that great woman of God. And I just feel like he should qualify, even if that's something that he's never thought of.
Right. Which, let me clarify. So I never said that I would... I see the eyes. Whatever. So I never said that I would on the date say all of this stuff the first date, right? These are just things that I have in my mind that if eventually they come up, I'm going to take note. And if I need to verbalize at any point, I will verbalize. But it's not something where I'm going to be like, well, you don't do this, you don't do that, I'm going to need you to move on. In my mind, there's a checklist. However, I'm not going to verbalize.
That's how I felt. I actually completely agree with you. I felt like seriously, I did. To me, the thing is this: God knows us, and He's like, the number of hairs are counted on your head. If this is such a burning desire in your heart, then you trust that God put it there. And I truly believe that God put that desire in my heart. And I knew that a man would be disqualified if he tried to kiss me before I do. I just knew it in my heart, and it was placed there. Now, for me, it was good. Move them out of the way so God can bring a person that actually can step up to the plate. That's how I felt in my head. Because for me, kissing was an issue. Sex was an issue before marriage. We weren't virgins when we got married. Right. And sex is for play. So 4 is before, play is sex. And for me, sex opens up the door to so many other things. Right. You can say, I'm just going to kiss this person, but that kissing leads to rubbing, leads to touching, leads to other things.
The progression.
And the thing is, we already know our equipment works. We don't want to go down that path.
Right.
Like, we know that we want to honor God. So I can completely relate with you. And for me, I didn't respect men. So if the man said that, then for me, I was like, okay, I can submit. I can get under the mission of what God has called us to do as a marriage, because I can respect you as a man.
Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road here. So for Ryan, right, this is like, I'm a virgin. I've been a virgin all this time. That's never been an issue for me. I've never, let that lead me down any kind of path. should he be disqualified?
Absolutely not. I want to say this. I think you said something that was so important here. You said this is something I've never heard of, I didn't know. So unless you were in a situation where, like, God revealed this unto you, then you would not have known this. But now information is so readily available for people. Right. And these things, typically we are held responsible for the knowledge that we receive. Yeah. So if people hear this, then they have an opportunity to either qualify it or disqualify it. They can do what they want to do with it. When you met your wife, there wasn't the knowledge wasn't there.
Exactly.
And you did the best you could with what you knew. For me, it was just the only thing that separated us was that God told me to do this, and I thought it was stupid because I thought the only thing that men did, and I thought the boundary, the good line that I just didn't need to cross was having sex.
Yes.
Not I didn't need to kiss. But afterwards, I started to see that little bitty small flame, if thrown onto a very dry forest, could create a raging fire. And I knew what I did in the past, so I knew what was dry. Okay. And I knew that kiss, because my wife was a beautiful woman. If I went there, then I already knew that it's gonna burn, it's gonna rage, and when I get going, I don't know if I'm gonna stop.
So now, is this a solid line or a dotted line? So back to the book I read, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, Boy Meets Girl. He didn't kiss his wife either. What's the man's name? Joshua Harris. Yeah. He didn't kiss his wife before marriage either, but he set it up as, okay, here's my solid line. I know I'm not supposed to do this. I'm gonna make a dotted line as like a if I'm crossing this dotted line, I know I'm getting into a danger zone. It's not a sin, but it's a warning to myself that I'm going too far. Is this no kissing thing you're telling that everybody in here, this is something everybody should do, or is it like set a dotted line that is your dotted line, right, and stick to that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Some people in here aren't tempted by donuts. That's true. I mean, I am. My wife's not tempted by donuts, so I know that there's a separate line that I need to keep up. Like, don't bring them in the house, because I know if I do, I'm gonna eat the whole box. So there's a line that I have that my wife doesn't need. So I love the way that was set up, in the sense that for me and for us, we needed to create several dotted lines around ourselves. I put myself in a very small box, so that I knew what I could do, because I knew that any way I would have stepped out would have been in the danger zone.
And it's not a law, and that's what we teach when we explain things to people. It's not a law. You're not going to hell if you kiss your boyfriend. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's not a law. But I believe that we should be led by the Holy Spirit. And if that is Miracle's, like, if that's her great conviction, then I believe that God will meet her there. And I don't think that she's gonna, if the guy's saying, oh, I want to kiss. And what I learned is, I set my boundaries lower, because it'd been 5 years, before I met my husband. But a couple years before that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to meet anybody like that.
Right, and so then you start lowering your standards.
Okay, I'll adjust a little bit. Then I was like, oh, you don't want to just kiss. Like, you want to do something else.
Yeah,
So for me, I realized, you know what? I'm going to keep my boundaries up. And I told God 9 days before I met my husband, because it was December 2008, and I was sitting at Christmas Day, and all my family was like, Heather, you're 26, your clock is ticking. Like, you need to get you a man. And they're right.
That clock starts early.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, your clock is ticking. But all my family, all my sisters had children and husbands, and so, but I didn't. And I remember going to my prayer time, and I said, God, if I have to be single for the next 10 years, you are all I need. I'm so satisfied with you. I believe you'll fill my womb at the right time. And if I need to adopt, I'll do that. Amen. But I trust you. And I met my husband 9 days later.
So I want to say this too. Two things. Number one is, I know men now who do that, and I don't know if it may just be because they around me and they knew I did it. Like, my best friend didn't kiss his wife to the wedding day. A lot of guys that I know now, they understand it, and they just don't go that route. But another thing that I really want the listeners to hear in this is, value doesn't beg. Like, there's just certain brands that never go on sale. And they don't worry if whether or not, I mean, we would love for them to go on sale. They don't, but they don't, because they're like, we don't have to lower our value just so we can reach clientele. Instead, they expect for the clientele to work harder so you can get you can get our product. Like, you're gonna work 3 jobs in order to get this pair of shoes, but you're gonna have to work harder to get this. I'm not gonna lower this so that you can have this for free or have it on discount. So value doesn't beg, and I don't believe that Jesus Christ that he would place such a desire in us that we believe is valuable, and then he come back and he says, you know what, forget it, put it on discount, just wait for somebody else to come and get it, and you can have it.
Now, what's interesting
Black
is
Friday sale.
It's interesting. I was a virgin when I got married too, and I kind of struggled the other way in some instances. When I was in college, I had a poster in my dorm that said no kissing, no this, no that, no that, so that my girlfriend would know what the deal was. And I almost, it sounds good. But I was so militaristic about it that it ended up hurting. Like, so for instance, the dotted lines I set were good for me because it kept me pure to my wedding day. So I appreciate it. But I started I don't know what it is. It's just a slight legalism that I started to create in my life.
Yeah.
And I was doing good, but then because it was legalistic and it wasn't like a pure motive, I don't think, it almost became because I wanted to keep this virgin title, right? So it was almost like a pride thing. Like, so I started looking down on other people who weren't doing the things that I was doing. Right. So I think that's where I struggle. So I think that's the only thing I'm focused on is I love the standards. I love that, and I think you don't have anything to worry about. Somebody will do that for you. But I just don't want us to get so far to that where you start to become arrogantly pure. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because there's people who are just as godly as you that may be kissing like Ryan did. Yeah. Like I'll vouch for Ryan all day. Like Ryan is an awesome man of God, and he did great with his wife. So I don't know. I
feel you.
He did great with his wife.
And as a pastor of a church, we encounter couples who didn't do it right, and some of them had sex before marriage. That doesn't make them any less valuable than anybody else.
Yes,
our goal is we want to capture people, give them information before they get there, so it doesn't become legalistic. It becomes, man, I really believe this. I'm convicted about it, and I really want to do this because I love and I honor God.
Yeah. You know what helped me? You know what helped me? This is what helped me to actually stick to all this stuff. It wasn't the no. It was described to me what my wedding night should be like. Wow. Because up until then, sex was kind of like a dirty thing. It was like it was exciting because it was dirty. You know, that was the intrigue, right? So that's how I thought of it. But it wasn't until he painted a picture of being able to, on your wedding night, pray, thank God for what is about to happen. No shame, no hidden away. Being able to say, God, thank you for this blessing that you're giving us, and thank you for allowing us. And it changed my mindset on it to be like, I want that. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to do none of this stuff because I want to be able to be like completely pure on that night. Yeah. So the motivation of what's to come was more motivating to me than the don'ts. Yeah, at some point.
I guess I don't know if this is a question, we'll see, but something I've come across is a lot of times I am the only one that kind of has my mindset, whether it's been in college or just like around my friends, and a lot of times it can come off like I feel like people feel uncomfortable about it, and I'm very opinionated, so I make it clear what I believe. I'm not afraid to say like no. Yeah, they all know. But at the same time I try to exhibit grace, but I guess I'm trying to figure out like how do you balance that, because I think sometimes like I did have a moment myself where I kind of lowered my standards because I felt so bad. I was like, everyone around me is telling me like I need to be nicer, and not be so ridiculous, but I don't think that's obviously not the way to handle it. But how do you show grace in a very tangible way while still being true to who God has called you to be?
Well, when I would hang out with my groups of friends, I mean, I wasn't going like, everybody needs to know in this place that I ain't kissing nobody, till I get married. Right. We would just hang out. We'd have fun. Yeah. I just wanted to engage. So if people were talking like that, I'm like, now y'all know, like, you're Christians. Like, we're not supposed to be having sex outside of marriage. Y'all know that. Right. But if people want to kiss, they want to do whatever, I'm like, hey, that's between you and God. Yeah. Exactly. I'm not, if you come to me for advice about it, I'll tell you my personal convictions of what I think, your relationship is a train wreck and y'all keep doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. But if people are just doing certain things, then I wasn't like, casting judgment. I'm just like, that's between you and the Lord. Unless you include me in that conversation, then then hey. And
Yeah.
I knew at the right time God was going to bring, like, I knew without a shadow of a doubt. When I decided to let go of everybody, like, I was like, you know what, God, I trust that you're going to bring him at the right time. Even if it's in 10 years, I'm just going to trust you and I'm not going to settle. And God met me there. And I believe that he'll meet you there too.
Thank you.
Now, one more thing though. Here's something that I want to stop hearing. I hear too, this is why we focus so much on the guys, because I need more guys to step up. I've known too many guys throughout my life that don't even care about this. And I hear too often a woman say, oh, if he'll do this for me, like if he won't have sex before marriage for me or won't kiss for me, that needs to stop. Like, guys need to have their own standard too.
100%.
It shouldn't be like all these women asking you, please do this for me and will you suffer with me? You know what I mean? Like, you should want to do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's why I love your story, because guys need to know that that's what's expected of you. You should be the standard bearer. You should be the one saying, this is what we're doing, not, okay, I'll do it for you and then I'll trick you later down the line.
But I think it's a little mix of when it comes to that aspect. I think it'd be a little mix of both in a sense. And I'm explaining, like, if I would think if a lot more women had the standard, there wouldn't be so many men who. Okay, I guess I want to put it right because I don't want to say it wrong. If, let's say you get into a relationship, you get dating, and you have sex on the brain, this should be your standard, but it's not. But you're messing with women who are allowing that to happen. It doesn't teach you anything moving forward. Now, like you said, you should have the standard for yourself, but I think it does play a role on both sides of the equation when a woman says, hey, look, this is the standard, and a man said, and like how you guys did it, you guys didn't speak about it, but God spoke to you directly and said, this is what I want you guys to do. Yeah. So I think when you say you want men to speak up, step up as well. It needs to be. We are the leaders, so it needs to happen that way. I think it should be on both sides, if that makes sense.
Two to tango.
Yeah.
And I was going to say this. This is why I'm really growing to love what you guys are doing, because men, I hate to say this, men aren't usually targeted. Right. We usually aren't the ones giving the information. So women usually are. You look around. You got women's empowerments, women's conferences, women's retreats, women's this, women's magazine. Everywhere you turn is women. When you see men, it's muscles, women, cars, and protein shakes, cars. It's like, that's all you see around. Even on men's magazines, it's women. Yeah. And it's like, all right, so what is the man supposed to? What are we supposed to know? So when we aren't armed with information, we can't do anything with it. People always say knowledge is power, and while I do believe that, I think that it's incomplete. We can give men knowledge, we can teach them things, but until they learn to apply it and get the conviction you were talking about, I can show you what this is supposed to look like, and you apply this thing, now you can really apply it, and now they can be truly powerful. But we have to do a better job in the church as a whole, ecumenically, as in going in and saying, let's target our young men. Let's go to them. And I love what you guys are doing, because now it gives them an outlet to hear, okay, this is a possibility of what I can have. And then I want that. I want that. Because this is what I've seen. This is what Dad probably taught me or didn't teach me. This is what I saw from Uncle. But now I see this and I hear it and I want that.
Yeah, and I think a good thing, too, is that we balance it out, too. Is like, if you make a mistake, get back up.
Yeah.
Try it again. Keep going. Keep doing it. It's not a one-time thing. Like, if you mess up, it's okay. Okay, we're going to get you back up and back to the
What
process.
I'm trying to prevent and what I'm trying to get rid of, because I've seen it too much, is these double life dudes, right? So when I was in high school, I used to, there would be a guy that he would walk in with his girl or some girl he was interested in. Oh, hey baby, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I had a great time. I'll see you later. And then when she leaves, it's like, yo, me and that, I took that out. You know what I mean? And it's like a total flip. Yeah. And it's almost expected for a guy to be like the church boy around the women, and then to be totally the opposite of that around his fellas. And what I'm trying to prevent is, we need to get rid of those dudes. That's what we've been working on for the last whatever years, is that this is not an act. I know for a fact that guys watch the show thinking, oh, they're just doing this because they're on a show. They don't really think this. They don't really live this this way. I know people who think that. And we're trying to show people that as a guy, it's your responsibility to act. This needs to be real for you. You're not doing it just to impress a girl or to get this girl. This should be without, I got to a point in my life where even if I never got married, this is who I am. I don't care if I get any of the things that I'm hoping for. You have to be committed to this. So I just want those guys to get called out. We need more strong men of God in this thing.
But what type of friend friends do you have though? Because your friends shouldn't glory in that. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
if your friends are like, yeah, man, did you hit that? Like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
We need to look at who are we spending time with, who are we hanging out with, because they're influencing us. I mean, the Bible says that bad company corrupts good character. So it's like those people, even, you know, especially for females, if you're hanging out with these girls that are like, you know, girl, let's go get that money, let's get that free meal, honey, let's go get it. It's like, honey, everything has a cost for it.
Yes,
you know what I'm
great
saying?
impression.
That's
It's a great impression.
That's Atlanta.
But it real. That's Atlanta.
That is Atlanta.
Hip hop.
That is Atlanta.
I'm just saying. So if those are your friends, if they're not like, no, honey, well, what's the Holy Spirit saying?
Yeah.
Then it's like most times we don't want friends like that, because it's like, no, you're convicting me.
Right.
Like, I don't want to hear that right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to eat. I'm just trying to get some Christian Louboutins. Like, you messing with my money.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's really
true.
what it is. So if you have friends like that, like, you have to look at who you're hanging out with.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's good. All right. Hopefully, did you feel good?
I did. I felt
Feel
affirmed.
vindicated?
You got to stay tuned.
Inspector Data's next.
If you no. What I'm saying is, if you're listening to this podcast on the radio, then you got to go back and watch Periscope, because I'm getting ready to put Miracle on the hot seat on Periscope.
Oh God.
right.
It never ends.
You in the field with the Trackstarz, Ryan Righteous, SEANTANA, DJ Jeremiah. Let go.